Hey everyone, welcome to Ask Me Monday. This is episode number 43. For those of you who are new here, I'm Vickie Howell, and this is a weekly stream that I do really to cover sort of all that is crafty. I always do a tutorial. I usually do a live Q&A for viewers about anything knitting, crochet, life balance, craft-based. I'm here for you, whatever you need. And then we usually have we talk trends. Often we do giveaways, and we are because this episode is sponsored by Clover Needlecrafts. So I'm super excited to be with you here today. I missed last week. I'm going to sit on my feet because I feel short all of a sudden. And I want you to see my awesome shirt, the pink sheep. It's like being the black sheep, but with jazz hands. So hi Judy, good to see you. So last week I was off. I took the day because it was the first day of school for my kids. I have 3 kids. And a bunch of my girlfriends and I decided to play hooky and go see a showing of Bad Moms, the movie, and have mimosas and just sort of like celebrate getting our schedules back. So we did that. But I've missed being here and I have a ton to show you. So as I mentioned, today's episode is brought to you by Clover. Just so you know, full disclosure, I am Clover Needlecrafts Yarn Arts Ambassador. So I don't know why that was so hard for me to get out. So I'm extra excited because for a long time, whenever I was working with bigger yarns, I had to go to another brand's needles because they didn't tend to have, circular needles that were larger. But now, oh, they do. Takumi needles now come in sizes 17 and 19. And since right now, big knits are really on trend, there's no time like the present. So I'm going to be giving sets of these away later and I'll give you details. But I just want you to see how great they are because even though they're chunky, they still have the pointier tips. So you can work kind of on a lacier pattern, and I am going to show you one today. And I'll talk to you a little bit more about that in a second. But what I thought I would do is I'm going to answer a few questions that were posted on the boards. I'm going to do an unboxing of a bunch of mail that I got at my P.O. box that I have not checked in a couple of weeks. And then from there I'm going to do a tutorial and I'm going to talk about that. Then I have a big product reveal that's exclusive here that I've told no one about. So I'm excited about that. And then I'll wrap up as usual by checking to see if there's any live questions and giving you the details on the giveaway. So sit back, drink your coffee. If you're on the East Coast or if you're in the central part of the country like I am, maybe you're enjoying your lunch. If you're in Hawaii, you're probably just getting up in the morning. If you're in Europe, it's probably cocktail hour. Please partake. And if you're watching later and not live, you do you. Maybe knit or craft or whatever while you're watching. Okay, so I'm going to start off with viewer questions. The first one comes from Chris, and she wants to know if there's a way to calculate yarn for a long tail cast on. So there's not an actual exact science to a long tail cast on choosing the yarn. I just realized that I should have had other yarn around here. But what I tend to do is choose whatever needle you're going to use and whatever yarn you're going to use. And you can do one of 2 things. So you can either wrap the yarn around, and it's usually 1 wrap per stitch, right? So you could do that. So you could wrap, if you have to cast on 40 stitches, you might wrap that many and then add 6 more inches for your tail. And that would be the amount of yarn that you'd use for a long tail cast on. If you don't know what a long tail cast on is, please go to my YouTube channel. It's just YouTube, Vickie Howell. And you can look. There's a single tail cast on and a long tail cast on, and I do a how-to for that. The way that I do it, the lazy way, and it works out most of the time. I'm not going to say it works out all the time, but it works out most of the time, is that for every 30 stitches, I do like the whole yard thing. So, the nose, you can't really see, the nose to your tip of your fingers, if you hold it out, is supposed to be approximately 36 inches or a yard or whatever. And so I kind of just use that as a general guide for every 30 or so stitches. I do this number. And then I add a little extra, 6 inches, but I don't really I don't really count, but I add a little bit of extra for that tail to weave in at the end. So those are pretty foolproof ways. I have to say that 9 times out of 10 that works. So hopefully that was helpful, Chris. Good morning, Steen. Hello, Rose. Good to see you again. It looks like we've got Tracy here. I always love to hear where you're listening from, especially if you're new here. We have a lot of regulars, which makes me so happy. But I would love to hear where you're watching from. Okay, the next question came from Shannon, and it was posted yesterday on Facebook. And she said that you always see, in patterns, that you should watch your gauge and adjust gauge if you don't get it. And so Shannon's question is, how do you adjust the gauge if you're not getting what the gauge is? And it's really, really simple. All you have to do is find your inner zen, stop stressing out, and just breathe in until you get the exact gauge that the stitcher got. I'm just kidding. That's not that realistic. What you should do is you should go up or down a needle size, and then re-swatch and see, and then measure and see if you get it. And it doesn't just happen if you're a new knitter. I mean, my mom has been knitting for like 50 years or something. And I've been doing some knitting for my life, and we get different gauges. She's a much tighter knitter than I am. That's just who she is as a person. It's just who I am as a person. So whenever she does a lot of production stitching for me, whenever I hand stuff off to her, I always give her a needle size bigger than what I would use. So again, don't get down on yourself because you're not getting the exact gauge that the pattern calls for, but just test and make sure that you do get it before you start. It doesn't really matter for a scarf, but if you want something to fit, it matters a lot, because being a quarter stitch or a half stitch off per inch really adds up if you're making a 40-inch a cross sweater or whatever, or bust sweater rather. So hopefully that helps a little bit. We've got people from Green Bay, from Troy, Michigan. Man, 2 Michigan people right together. Logan, Utah. Awesome. Okay, so the last question from the boards that I'm going to take today is from Melanie. She wanted to know what I thought the best project is to be the first project that she starts for circular knitting. So the first time that she's starting to work in the round, what would be a great project? I always recommend a good beanie, like a good stockinette stitch beanie. You can even make it slouchy and you don't have to worry about decreasing for the crown. And you can just bunch it in and sew it at the top. And I have many beanies on my website, VickieHowell.com, where I actually prefer to not decrease for the crown. And I have sort of a signature method that I use to close and seam them together. So you can look there, but really you could just Google or go into Ravelry and find any sort of beanie. Simpler. Don't go crazy right away. Don't go into like a lacy cable number right away, just so you can get your vibe on. And once you're into that, then I think you'll find that knitting in the round is actually kind of easier than knitting back and forth, because you're never working on the non-public or the back side of the fabric. So like if you're working stockinette stitch, you don't ever have to purl. You're just knitting the whole time. So anyways, give it a try. I hope you enjoy it, and make sure that you share pictures and tag us when you get it, when you get the skill and are working on a project. I would love to see it. Alrighty, so I'm going to move on to the unboxing portion of this episode. I'm going to move my little notebook out of the way. So I get mail all the time. Some of it I have kind of a lot of different jobs, as some of you may know. And one of them is I'm the host of a podcast called Craftish. And so I get books from all different crafty publishers, just to show me different people that might be guests on them. And then I also, I'm a designer, so I get yarn from different companies. I also am a blogger, so I'll get different products for different companies. I'm also a video host, and so sometimes I'll get supplies for that, or submissions for potential things, and I also write. I write for magazines, so often I'll get magazines that I've written in, or have patterns for, or whatever. So a lot of them come to my house, but I have a P.O. box that I use too, and so I haven't checked it in a long time, so I cut them open, but I haven't looked into them yet. I just didn't want you to have to deal with, me trying to struggle to get into a package. So I'm going to unbox a little. Hopefully this is not boring a sin to you guys. Boring as sin. That doesn't seem right. Sin doesn't seem like it would be boring. I'm going to have to think about that one and come back with something else. Thank you, Chris, for saying that the podcast has been amazing. It's a passion project of mine, and I feel like I gain something every time I interview someone. I get so much knowledge from the most amazing creative types. All right, so this first package is from UU. Do you know UU, the brand, the yarn brand? Oh, and it looks like they've sent me a shade card. Yes, yes, Steen, it is like Christmas. So apparently they have a new yarn out called Woolly Worsted. I am not getting paid to show you this. This is just purely me looking in the mail. I met the UU owner, Heather, at TNNA, so she sent me this kind of like lovey-love package with yarn in it. So it looks like it's sporty, you so sporty. That's hilarious. You so sporty. I love a good pun. Ooh, I love this color. It's like a nerdy gold. I love any color that could be a elbow patch on a blazer. I'm just saying. Hi from Richmond, Virginia. Ellen here every week from Nevada. Hi. So she sent me all kinds of like woolly worsted. I think that's it. Woolly worsted and sport. So that's going to be super fun to play with. So I'm going to play with that. Thank you, UU. Going to be fun. I enjoy the yarn. So I'll play with that later. So that is my first package. Let's see. Hi from Puerto Rico. Hi, Millie. All right, this next one. Oh, I think I know what this is. This is coming to me from Spain. Oh, so there's this Spanish magazine called El Castuero. My maiden name is Montoya, and my Spanish is awful. Anyway, and I did a design for them for both their Spanish, they translated it, obviously not me, and their English magazine. Their magazines are gorgeous. So this is the English version. It's called the Sewing Box. I don't know if you've seen it. And I think that if you just go to the sewingboxmag.com, you can get a digital version or an actual print version like this. Their magazines are really like a gorgeous book that you put on your coffee table. So I think that this is the one that I was featured in, but it's just so cute. I mean, they look like just kind of like cool kid zines. Oh, look, there's an Arnie and Carlos feature. Those are two adorable knitters that you probably have heard of. So they just do all kinds of stuff. It's all sort of needle arts based stuff, and they feature a lot of artists from around the world. This is the pattern I did for them. They specifically wanted a baby bib, and so this is a lime slice. This is my girlfriend's son, Hollis, that modeled for me. So that the pattern for that is available. That's crocheted, and then they did. This is cool. I hadn't seen this yet. They did a feature on me. This is the cardigan for my How to Crochet and Arcade Stitch Cardigan class on Creative Live. And then they did a little feature on me for projects and stuff. So, oh, that's really cool. I love that it was printed in Spain. I can't wait to really dig into this. All right, next is from Story Publishing. Oh, excited about this. Okay, so this book, Crochet Taxidermy, I didn't know this was coming. How fun.